1. Huntley. The boy, George MacDonald, thoughtful, imaginative, and full of love for his natural surroundings, throughout his childhood made countless walks from his father's farm into the town of Huntley, just across the bogey. He had been born only a block from the town square, and came into town for school, for church, for play, and to visit Granny. He knew every street of Huntley as intimately as he knew the fields of his father's farm and the now ruined quarters of Huntley Castle. Not only did he know the streets, he knew the town's surroundings, its fields and farms and the hills which surrounded the little valley with Huntley at its centre. He came to know the highland regions to Huntley south, and the seashore to its north, but always Huntley and its immediate environs remained most vivid in his imagination. As George MacDonald grew older and eventually left home for the university, thereafter to migrate to London for the greater part of his professional career, he never forgot the land of his birth and upbringing. Time and again in his memory, he found himself walking those same streets, riding those same hills, walking along the banks of those same rivers, and looking out the windows of his childhood upon fields that now seemed so full of meaning with the passage of years. Throughout his life, he regularly returned to this small agricultural town from which his roots had sprung. Crisis brought him back. Decisive change brought him back. Death brought him back. But back he always came, to find rejuvenation for what in life lay ahead, and to find inspiration for the writings he would give to the world. Historical backgrounds. The ancient Scottish village of Huntley lies in the northeast of Scotland and Aberdeenshire, some 38 miles northwest of Aberdeen and 17 miles south of Portsoy on the coast. Situated at a crucial juncture between Aberdeen and Inverness, the area that would come to be known as Strathbogie, the valley of the River Bogie, first came into prominence in the 12th century, when the first castle was built at the critical defensive point near where the River Bogie empties into the River Deveron. The 12th century was a time of momentous change for Scotland, as her king set about solidifying the whole social and political structure of the country from the old loosely knit Celtic tribal kingdom into a well-ordered feudal country under its new Norman rulers. There was determined resistance to the new ways in the strongly Celtic areas, and subjugation could only be achieved by placing loyal noblemen in vital strongholds along all the strategic routes that interconnected the north. Thus, Duncan, Earl of Fife, built a castle known as the Peel of Strathbogie on the banks of the Deveron, and occupation of the lands later passed to his son and grandson. In 1307, after falling ill at Inverurie, Robert Bruce was brought to the castle at Strathbogie to recover. But though the king had found shelter in his castle, the Lord of Strathbogie turned against Bruce just before his final triumph against the English at Bannockburn. As a punishment, the lands were taken from him and granted in 1318 to Sir Adam Gordon of Huntley, in Berwickshire, in the south of Scotland. A border laird, Gordon brought with him to the north the name Huntley, from his property in Berwick. A village slowly grew around the castle, and though the Gordons remained the leading noble family of Huntley from the 14th to the 20th century, after two rebuildings and a colourful and turbulent history, Huntley Castle fell into disrepair in the 17th century. Thereafter, it became little more than a common quarry, providing building material for houses in the still growing village. Such plundering did not stop until the 19th century, when at last antiquarian sentiment came to the rescue and declared the ruins a national monument. Lying in the heart of the Strathbogie Valley, with the wide circle of hills standing round it, the village of Huntley eventually expanded to occupy most of the area between the Bogie and the Deveron. The valley was fertile farm and grazing land, standing within sight of the foothills of the Grampian Highlands to the south. Both rivers originated some 12 miles to the southwest, high on the windy, storm-swept peat flanks of the Buck, a 2,400-foot highland mountain that stood watch over the forests and valleys below. From the Buck, a little stream known as the Bome of Craig flowed westward, where it emptied into the Bogie, which then flowed toward Huntley, while the Deveron flowed north from the Buck, then west into the village. Gathering size and waters from other contributing burns and springs, the streams took their peat-gold brownish hue from decaying heather, the essence of the Highland mystique. Around the foothold of the ruins of Huntly Castle swirled the Deveron, larger, more open, yet capable of fury when aroused. The Bogie flowed around the town to the east, cascading over rocks and beside ancient but now quiet mills, topaz-stained, until it poured into the Deveron east of Huntly. Both rivers were easily capable of defying their banks and flooding farms and homesteads in the process, and even once or twice threatening the town between them with their combined ferocity. The symbolic beauty and fierce nature of these small but rapid waters, like the nature of the ancient Celts who had walked their banks, played a part in inspiring the lads of Strathbogie. The two rivers, along with the ruins of the castle they surrounded, set a mood of adventure, passion, and historic antiquity. Their very colour of rich brown suggested a memory of Highland heritage, as the tumbled-down castle stones brought to mind all the vivid heroism of Scotland's tumultuous past.